Greetings folks, welcome back to the channel where today we bring you another veritable feast of botanical knowledge. Today we bring you another plant in the 50 Flowers in 50 Days series. The plant that we are looking at today, circa 20th of July 2025, is a member of the Family Apiaceae or the Umbells family. The plant is none other than wild carrot, Daucus carota, otherwise known as bird's nest, bishop's lace, carrot flower or Queen Anne's lace in North America. Each individual white-topped, flat compound umbel contains florets of 5 petals, which are notched, each of approximately 2 to 3 millimeters in size. An unusual feature of this flower umbel is that it contains a single solitary crimson red flower at exactly its centre. The function of this flower is unclear, but it is thought to mimic or attract insects, and the colour is down to a pigment known as anthocyanin. The following image sequence illustrates the 5-petaled notch flower becomes unequal towards the perimeter of the umbel, potentially offering a small insect a landing pad. It is speculated that these features may be subtle evolutionary adaptations, i.e. the peripheral landing pad accessing the flower head and the centralised flower indicating optimal condition for pollination. Later in the video we identify the flower morphology of the umbel in the Family Apiaceae. In that section of the video we look at the general characteristics of the Apiaceae and go on to look at the naming of parts in the primary and secondary umbel, such as the involucral bracts, the bracteoles and the bracts. We also take a close look at the unusual seed head of wild carrot and its oblong spiny seeds, which are distributed on the fur of animals, and the distinctive form in which the capsule is folded within the bracts and branches of the plant. Wild carrot is known by a number of common or vernacular names, none the least wild carrot, bird's nest, bishop's lace, carrot flower, and in North America it's known as Queen Anne's lace. It is, as stated, a member of the Apiaceae, formerly known as the Umbellifer Family. The Latin binomial is perhaps a little bit more complex, with the prefix Daucus deriving from the Middle English name for the wild carrot, which was Dauc. The suffix carota is ultimately derived from a number of language forms, notably and ultimately Greek from the word karoton, derived from the root ker, meaning horn, head, or so called for its horn-like shape. Let us turn our attention now to the habitat of this plant, which is mainly coastal but not exclusively so, and it is a summer wildflower of dry grassland preferring lime-rich soils. Habitats include grassland, cliffs, seaside, wasteland and roadside. Greetings folks. Amongst the blackheads of knapweed, we have found the third plant in the meadow series which we expected to find, having looked at muskmallow and field scabious. The plant that we're looking at now for the subject of today's episode is a plant in the Family Apiaceae or an Umbellifer, and the plant that you're looking at is actually wild carrot or Daucus carota. I'm going to attempt off the top of my head to describe the plant. The plant is a perennial which likes fertile lime-rich soils, and it flowers between the period of June to August. If we look at the plant from the bottom up, It has a tap root which we won't pull up, and as you can imagine it's not as luscious as a domestic carrot, but it is of that form. As we move our fingers up the stem, you can see the stem is rigid and hairy, and the plant divides at various junctures into flower heads the further up we move on the stem. The leaves, which I'm sure you can see, if I just put that up to the camera, are once, twice pinnately divided. In other words, they're fern-like or divided. I don't know if the camera is picking that up, but we'll look at that later in the video. So the leaves are pinnately divided, and obviously they get smaller as we move up the plant. Turning now to the capitulum or the flower head, it's typically an umbellifer. The interesting thing about wild carrot, it usually in the centre has one tiny solitary purple flower. It just so happens that this specimen doesn't, but we will find one for you to look at. The petals have the individual florets have 5 petals, approximately 2 millimeters in size, and they are notched towards the outer region of the flower. Underneath it you can see the bracts, which are sort of bending backwards from the umbellifer structure, and the overall colour of the flower is white. It has 5 stamens and 2 stigma on slender short styles. So that is the overall form of the wild carrot, Daucus carota, and here on this one you can see a plant that has flowered. You can see those sepals or bracts underneath the flower head, and you can see the tight, very unique clasp form of the flower as it goes to seed. So this is the plant wild carrot, which is in meadow grassland, and it's a perennial. One of the reasons we've come here today to look at the field scabious, the muskmallow and the wild carrot is they are perennials, and that basically means they return year on year. And sure enough, here is our perennial friend, the wild carrot. So we now look at the flower structure in some more detail on the video, and this very distinct structure which will enable you to identify it in the field. Greetings folks, we've returned today to do a little addenda to the root of the wild carrot, Daucus carota. And there are no doubt many of you out there who will be thinking carrot and coriander soup, and no doubt you will be after one of these big boys. Well, the bad news is you're going to be disappointed, because the root of the wild carrot is diminutive, it is tasteless, it's fibrous, and it has little or no nutritional content. So the best thing to do is to leave it in situ. This bad boy, on the other hand, was bought in a local supermarket for the principal sum of 13 pence, and it's a tribute to human industry, insofar as this has been selectively bred through generations to achieve a shape, a texture, a water content, a sugar content and a nutritional content that makes it fit for the shelves. So the best thing that we can do for the wild carrot is to leave the carrot in the wild and preserve its dignity. As always folks, before you embark on your trek or journey into the field, we look at the features and characteristics which will enable you to identify and find it in the field, commencing with the flower structures. As always, we provide a detailed botanical slide for those of you who may wish to study the plant in more detail, and it may be stopped at any point. As pointed out, wild carrot is a member of the family Apiaceae, or the Umbellifer family. It is a biennial, growing 30 to 100 centimetres in height, and it has a distinctive taproot, the precursor of the cultivated carrot. It has a distinctive seed and distinctive seed head, which we have looked at in detail. The flower in the form of florets are small, dull white and clustered in flat, dense umbels. The terminal umbels are 8 to 15 centimetres in diameter and may be pink in bud, and they have rarely one or few reddish pink crimson flowers in the centre, known as the ruby flower. The function of these tiny red flowers, which is red due to anthocyanin, is thought to attract insects and indicate optimal state for pollination. There are approximately 7 to 13 bracts below the umbel, and these are three-forked or pinnate, distinguishing the plant from other white-flowered umbellifers. These bracts fold backwards, encapsulating the flower head after the plant has flowered, forming an ornate seed head. Each individual tiny floret has 5 petals, typically 1 to 3 millimeters in size, and is notched. They are unequal on the outer florets of the umbel perimeter. The florets have 5 stamens, which are long, 2 stigmas on styles which are short, and an ovary which is below the sepals, which is 2-celled. The fruit is distinctively oblong and spiny and splits into 2, yielding 2 seeds of approximately 2.5 to 4 millimeters in size. The spiny fruit allows it to adhere to the fur of animals and aids it in its overall dispersion. The plant may be seen to flower between the period of June to September. It is not the intention of beginners videos to cover the confusion species in depth. However, as always, we give a slide to point you in the right direction. We would also be remiss if we did not warn you in regards to the overlapping phenology of other umbellifers such as hemlock and hemlock waterdrop wort, which are highly toxic and dangerous plants. For this section, we recommend that you look at our 5-minute plant family series on the Apiaceae, where we deal with the features and characteristics of the plant families in detail. As this is a beginner's video, we are going to focus on the flower morphology of the umbel and the naming of parts. As can be seen, wild carrot is a compound umbellifer containing secondary umbels. This slide also summarises the primary family trait in the floret of 5 petals, 5 stamens and 2 stigmas. The following slide, when studied, will help you distinguish between the bracteoles, the bracts and the involucral bracts beneath the individual floret itself. Let us now allow the plant to speak for itself. turn our attention now to the leaves and stems. The leaves are pinnately, finely divided and lacy and overall triangular in shape, resembling fern fronds. The leaves alternate either side of the stem and are 2 to 3 times divided, with the leaflets 4 to 7 millimeters and are slenderly lobed. The stem is upright, rigid and solid, and usually stiffly hairy. Well folks, that brings our insight into the wild carrot to an end, and as always, thank you very much indeed for watching. If you have liked or enjoyed this video or found it interesting or educational, please like, share and subscribe so that we can bring you another video in the series. All that remains to be said is the words of Maggie, our international symbol of floral appreciation, is whatever the weather may be, go outdoors and enjoy it.